Hi, I'm Till, and in this video I will show you what you need to get started with programming. Programming is a valuable skill to have because our world runs on software. Maybe you want to learn programming to get a job in the field or just to learn something new. Whatever the reason, you want to get started to acquire the needed skill set. What do you need to get started? There are four main things we want to talk about to get you up and running. First, knowing the problem and finding a solution. Second, knowledge of a programming language. Third, the tooling to start typing in the code. And the last one, learning to practice. Fear not, as I will help you with taking what I think are the right decisions to get started and not be trapped in analysis paralysis. Let's start with problems and finding solutions for them. Programming is actually something that starts in your mind. You do not need a coding tutorial to get started with the first step. Anyone can do it. The basic premise is that you have a problem that needs to be solved. For example, I need to calculate the final prices of a customer shopping list, or I want to automatically convert all Word documents to PDF, or I have this awesome idea for a game. Programming, or better yet software engineering, is usually the art of finding and bringing to life solutions for problems. When you know the problem space, you can work on the solution. There are multiple ways to approach this, like just start coding and see where it leads to, or do thorough planning of all the bits and pieces that could be needed. I would start with the divide and conquer approach and take the solution, split it up into smaller pieces and repeat again until you have such small steps that cannot be broken down anymore. By doing it this way, you do not even need to know any programming language, but can instead formulate your solution with something called pseudocode, something that resembles code but is not actually executable. Let's do an example. We have a problem, you are hungry. The solution for that, eat something, or let's be more specific, eat an apple. I do not know how you usually eat your apples, but let's just pretend that the apples need to be prepared. Okay, so let's start with I want to eat an apple. I want to eat an apple. This is something we can split up further. For example, there are multiple steps like fetch an apple from somewhere, wash the apple, cut the apple, and take bites until done. Those steps can even be split up further. For example, fetch an apple means go to the kitchen, use your arm to grab an apple from a bowl, wash the apple. You would have to get the apple to the basin, turn on the water, put apple under water tap and rub the apple clean. Let's go on with cut the apple, which needs take a knife, take a cutting board, put the apple on the board and cut the apple with a knife. And the last one, take bites until done, can be broken up into while having apple pieces, put piece into mouth, chew. We can repeat splitting up those steps as much as needed. How many split ups you need depends on how low level you have to go depending on your environment. Either you do not need all steps, do you need to cut the apple before eating, or we do some things that cannot go more low level, like moving your arm to cut with a knife. You do not really consciously move your muscles, do you? You can't go any deeper. And by going this route, you will find a solution to your original problem that consists of small solvable steps. As a reminder, this approach is called divide and conquer. Let's go to the next step of picking a programming language. There are a plethora of programming languages to choose from. What to choose depends a lot on what problems you want to solve, but almost any programming language can solve any problem, so there is no real wrong choice here. I will give you some examples. For gaming, you could take C++ or C# and learn an engine like Unreal Engine or Unity and be happy. To create a website, you could take Java and/or JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Take Kotlin for Android app programming. The list goes on and on. And this is what could lead to analysis paralysis, where you cannot decide what to do next. I started with C++ because I wanted to create games when I was younger. Today I'm not using C++ anymore. Now I'm mostly using Java, C#, and Kotlin. It doesn't really matter with which language you start, as you can easily learn any programming language if you already know at least one. I recommend a programming language that is a staple in the economy: Java, a general purpose programming language with a high usage around the world. High usage equals more documentation, better community for solving problems, and high demand. Java can be used for basically anything you can think of that can be done through programming. Websites, servers, gaming, scripts, you name it. Some things, like low-level system code, cannot be done with Java directly, but those use cases are limited to a small number of applications like drivers or operating systems. Java can look a little clunky, but it gets the job done. Okay, so now we know about problems and solutions and have picked Java as our programming language. The third thing you need is the right tooling. One important part of the tooling is the hardware, something that you can write and run code on, and that is usually a computer. You could potentially write your code in any text editor, for example Notepad, but usually code is written in an integrated development environment, or IDE in short. The IDE simplifies lots of tasks, like helping you write syntactically correct code or compiling and starting your application. The three big IDEs for Java are IntelliJ IDEA, Eclipse, and NetBeans. For the first half of my Java developer life I used Eclipse. Eclipse does the job pretty well, but is not the cool kid on the block anymore. Since my professional developer life I'm using IntelliJ IDEA and I'm pretty happy about it. There's not so much that one can do in one IDE that cannot be done in the other. IntelliJ IDEA is just easier to work with, for example code completions, even for new Java features or recommendations to simplify code. I only used NetBeans for web development and not for Java, so there's not much I can tell you about it except for that it also does the job. I recommend IntelliJ IDEA Community, so you should install that. Go to JetBrains.com, click on Developer Tools and then on IntelliJ IDEA. Click on Download, take the Community Edition to the right. Start installation and follow the install wizard. In the setup wizard, just take the defaults for everything. Take the dark color mode if you like a dark mode for the IDE. So as a reminder, we have selected Java and IntelliJ IDEA, and now let's talk about what we are going to program. So let's start up IntelliJ and get our first program up and running. Start a new project and call it Apple Eater. Select JDK, short for Java Development Kit, in version 17. If you cannot select any JDK, then pick download and download version 17. JDK 17 is a current long-term support version and recommended to be used. Click Create. On the left side, navigate into the source folder and then on main. Here you can see sample code that prints something to the console. The console is a window in the bottom where text is displayed that will appear when you start your program. If you like, you can start a program by clicking the green play button next to the code, and then you will see the text Hello World in the console. So as you can see, it is easy to start your program and see what is happening, thanks to using an IDE. Now remember the first part of the video, having a problem and finding a solution. There we split up the eating an apple solution into smaller parts. We wrote pseudocode to show the needed steps for eating an apple. Let's copy over the biggest step, eating an apple, just under the Hello World statement. Remove all spaces and add parentheses to it. Add a semicolon at the end. The written text will be red. Red means error and the written code is not correct. Let the IDE autocomplete the problem by having the cursor on the red text and pressing Alt Enter and select Create Method in the Quick Action menu. A new block appears with eating an apple as name. This is a method block and represents code that can be executed. We also split up eating an apple into smaller bits. Let's copy over fetch apple, wash apple, cut apple and take bytes until done. Let's repeat all steps we did for eating an apple. Remove the spaces in the name and add parentheses and a semicolon. Every red text should be auto-completed with Alt-Enter and then create method. We will stop here for the example and not do any additional sub-steps. When done, we will go on by printing something for every step of eating an apple. Go into a method block and type in SOUT or SOUT as I like to call it and autocomplete with enter. Let's do it for eat an apple. Type in SOUT and then add I want to eat an apple. Complete those steps for the other method blocks. When done, you can start the program and read the story you just programmed in the console. The last and final step of this video is learning by practice. All I want to say here is that you need to not only read tutorials, but actually do the tutorials and or create something on your own. This comes back to the problem solution thing, where you have to think of something you want to create and then just try to do it by splitting the solution into smaller pieces that you can solve by yourself, for example through Google. You need to create Googleable steps that are low level enough, like how do I ask the user something? How do I print something to the screen? How do I write a file? And create something bigger from that. By practicing, you will learn what questions you can ask Google about Java and the code you want to write. I plan on doing programming by example videos, so leave a sub to get notified. If you liked the video, then leave a like. See you in the next one.